Good morning and welcome. You're watching Times Now. My name is Amita Badwa as we get you this continuous coverage of the West Asian crisis there, because in India, we're grateful that we're celebrating the Festival of Colors, but it seems that the situation is completely opposite when we talk about the crisis there that has been quite sensitive and quite volatile. We'll be getting you the updates on what sides have been saying, especially when it comes to the statements, the contradictions, and of course, when it comes to the attacks and the counterattacks, the retaliation that is now coming in from every side in the Middle East. First up, let's get you the top 10 developments. Well, Mojtaba Khamenei has now been elected as the next Iranian supreme leader, according to reports that has been coming in. Another report suggests that President Donald Trump's plan was to hit Iran when weak, and that is why he gave a go-ahead when he had this conversation with Prime Minister Netanyahu of Israel. Now, as far as when it comes to the U.S. destroyer in an Indian Ocean, what has now been said that Iran has hit that, but there have been counter-claims that have been coming in from the U.S.'s side. Also, Iran has struck energy sites in Qatar. Remember, when it comes to the visuals that came in from one of the biggest oil refineries in Saudi Arabia, that was also hit. An energy site seems to be next on the target of Iran. Israel, meanwhile, has struck the other front of the war that it is now fighting against Hezbollah, and the south of Beirut has now been hit by the IDF. Now, there has also been a blast that has been reported. Imagine that too in the heart of Dubai, which is at the U.S. consulate. However, there has been no injuries reported. All of the staff has been accounted for. Now, Iranian missile has had hit at another U.S. base at Al Udeid, and the CIA station in Riyadh that has also been hit, and security alert that has now been cited. These are the pictures and images that have been coming in from Saudi Arabia. Meanwhile, IDF continues to strike at least 60 Hezbollah targets, especially when it comes to the safety of its citizens in north of Israel. We're looking at the IDF that has been fighting this multi-front war. And more flights from the UAE, Oman have now landed in New Delhi in the effort to bring back stranded Indian nationals from the Gulf nations. In the meantime, let's talk about the escalation that has happened so far in the Middle East. Let's get you through those pictures there for a better understanding, because this is how once peaceful Gulf nations now look like. One could have hardly thought or dreamt of such a situation ever coming to light someday. Tehran, it has been bombarded with joint strikes that Israel and UF have been conducting. In Beirut, in Lebanon, Hezbollah targets or command centers that have now been hit by IDF. In Bahrain, when it comes to the U.S. military installation, that has been hit. Now, these are other cities that we are looking at in Iran itself. Shiraz has also been hit. There are multiple cities, so we're just not looking in Tehran, but other areas as well that have also been hit. This is in the heart of Dubai, the U.S. consulate, this picture that came in. However, all of the staff has been accounted for and there has been no injuries. And pictures coming in from Kuwait, where Iranian media reports suggested that they had downed F-15s. But there has been contradictory statements that have been coming in from the other side. So in this escalation that has now been reported, tensions are rising sharply. The United States has issued a blunt warning to Iran, saying that the war would drag on and they're ready for it. After Tehran declared its readiness for prolonged conflict, the US president indicated that the military operations may last forever. And he has made it clear that they are prepared even beyond the given time frame. As earlier, he was suggesting that probably 4 to 5 weeks. But what is also now grabbing headlines is President Trump's apparent shift on the question of boots on the ground. Because in a recent interview, Trump said that there would be soon a retaliation for the attack on U.S. embassy in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia, and to also avenge the deaths of the American soldiers who have been killed in action. Now, the remark marks a departure from his earlier stance, where he had suggested that the ground deployment may not be necessary, where he seems to be making that appeal and urging the people of Iran to rise up against the authoritarian regime. Now, after Saturday's strike on Iran, Trump says, and I quote, that every president says that there will be no boots on the ground. I don't say it. I say probably don't need them. But if they were necessary, then action could be taken. Because that shift in tone is now fueling speculation over whether Washington is now preparing for a deeper military engagement in the region.
We have the strongest and most powerful by far military in the world, and we will easily prevail. We're already substantially ahead of our time projections, but whatever the time is, it's okay. Whatever it takes, we will always, and we have right from the beginning, we projected 4 to 5 weeks, but we have capability to go far longer than that. We'll do it, whatever.
Now let's talk about the other Gulf nations, the friendly nations as far as the allies of the US is concerned, and where there are military installation of the United States, they are now being targeted by Iran. Again, we are looking at in Qatar, these are energy sites that have now been hit. 2 major gas facilities have now been shut down. And they have also, as far as Iranian strikes have targeted, the Al Udeid air base and the LNG output halted after damage there, and urea methanol production, however, what is being said, has been suspended by Qatar, saying that the damage has been contained, and Doha has now called for an immediate de-escalation amid the growing crisis. Now, 2 major Qatari energy facilities have now been shut down. The operations have been suspended after being damaged during Iran's strike targeting the Al Udeid air base in Qatar, and this is coming in from their foreign ministry, adding that the situation, however, has been contained. Now, Qatar Energy has announced that it has suspended the liquefied natural gas production following the attacks on 2 of its energy facilities. And as far as these developments are concerned, let's bring in our panel of guests and experts also joining us here on the broadcast. Good morning to you, Lieutenant General D.P. Pandey, sir. He's with us. Major General Dhruv Katoj is also with us. And we also have Colonel Mahesh Ramchandran also joining us, defense experts who will give us a better understanding as this crisis continues to escalate. Well, happy Holi to all who are celebrating, but it seems that the situation is completely opposite in West Asia for us. Isn't it, Lieutenant General D.P. Pandey, sir? Military installations are a first hit, usually during combat operations that we see. But civilian infrastructure, refineries, are we also looking at what Iran is now doing? It's a complete do and die situation for them, sir.
So firstly, happy Holi to everybody, and Katoj sir, happy Holi to you, and Mahesh, yeah, happy Holi to you, sir. Yes, I think it's great to be in a country where we can celebrate colors and be safe. And I think today everybody should recognize the fact that in that 88 hours conflict which we had with Pakistan, not one drone or a missile could actually land up, and therefore the due credit must be given to Indian armed forces for what they did. But coming on to this thing, I think please understand that Iran has been escalating. It is not a question of do and die. What they are targeting is actually truly nearly couple of millennial, at least about 2,000-year-old fight which is happening. They don't care, because most of the countries in the Gulf which they are attacking are all Sunni-ruled countries, and they just don't care. It is an opportunity, because after all, they were trying to control, they were trying to dominate and actually push them around through proxy warriors using Houthis, Hamas, Hezbollah, and variety of Shia-based terrorist organizations. But over a period of time, in last about 40 to 50 years, and especially in last 2 decades, what has come about is that Iran has continued to bear the brunt of sanctions, has gone down into the economic this thing, and the relevance in the world power economics this thing. They are totally out of the reckoning. Whereas all these Gulf countries have actually risen high. They have been modern. They have tried to shift from the petro-dollar economy towards a modern system of economy, and they are looking at a better world future wherein the world is actually coming and investing in these countries. So naturally, one certain degree of hate was always there in the mind of Iranian this thing. And when you have a regime which is radical in thought and mind, I guess they don't care what they're going to be hitting. So in the initial strikes, while they started off by attacking the military facilities, but please understand that if you really want to hit this thing, you can't just kill soldiers, because soldiers, aircrafts and everything can come back. But when you are hitting oil refineries, you are hitting infrastructure, that is the sending of a message that we are coming to destroy you for some time at least. So I think this is a response of a total terrorist kind of a mindset, a radical mindset. They don't care what happens to... so truly, everybody is so-called Muslim. They follow a religion called Islam, but Actually, this divide has come out so loud and clear
But
in
isn't
this.
this a direct provocation, sir, that we are looking at? Because despite the sanctions for decades, Iran has a substantial, arsenal with regards to the ballistic missiles that it seems to have now been firing on all accounts. And of course, one day it's going to run out of them, then what will happen? And what if one day the Gulf nations decide to retaliate? Because they have been sending out a message saying that their sovereignty, their territory, in a way, has now been hit by Iran, and they have a right to self-defense. So what would happen next? Because there are other round of pictures that have been coming in, and we just want to put them out for our viewers, because now what is being said. Now, U.S. consulate in Dubai has been hit. U.S. embassy in Riyadh has been hit. Remember, these are civilian infrastructures. Now, what is being said that more explosions have been ringing out in the Gulf cities as Iran has now hit has continued with its strikes on industrial and diplomatic targets across Middle East. And the governments have meanwhile sought to evacuate their nationals from the region. And the pictures that have been coming in since the last 2 days suggest, one could have actually thought or dreamt of that such pictures will be coming in from Dubai, one of the safest cities in the world that it has been regarded as. And the U.S. consulate has been hit. U.S. embassy in Riyadh has been hit. So those are the pictures there. The pictures that actually came in from yesterday, this is from Riyadh. The U.S. embassy that has been hit, this is again, as I said, a direct provocation that has now been coming in because Saudi Arabia has been of the opinion, as far as when it comes to the right of self-defense is concerned, most of the Gulf countries have now come out to condemn the attacks that have been done on part of Iran. Now what we are getting to know, that a deadly strike has now been reported in other areas as well. Let's talk about Lebanon, because this is the Israeli strike that has killed at least 4 people in Lebanon. And this is the state-run media reports where 4 people have been killed in a residential complex in the Lebanese city of Baalbek. And what is now been said that the strike was carried out early on Wednesday and has wounded 6 others, according to the national agency there. So, Dhruv sir, as far as Israel is concerned, it is used to rather, fighting wars or conflicts on multiple fronts. So it is fighting this war with Iran. It is also fighting the war against Iran's proxy, which is Hezbollah in Lebanon.
Thank you, Amita. Very happy Holi to you, to my co-panelists, and to all your viewers. Right now, at this time, in my colony, there are drums beating all around. And I think across the world, there are a different type of fire going on. As far as Lebanon is concerned, I think that is the minor war which is taking place. And what Israel is really doing, it is simply improving its battle positions. The Hezbollah had moved up a little bit, but the government of Lebanon had told them to disarm, which they're not going to do. And that process, I presume, will be taken on by the Israelis. The Lebanon war is not going to be a very severe war. That is restricted. The major conflict will still play around in Iran and in the surrounding Gulf countries. But as far as Lebanon is concerned, your specific question, the capability and capacity of the Hezbollah now to target Israeli cities is very, very restricted. They may actually carry out they may fire a missile or 2, but each passing day, they are getting, their capacities are getting degraded. And I do not visualize their ability to continue any conflict there, any worthwhile conflict to hit Israel with any degree of efficiency. The second part is that what Israel is going to do now, they will increase their area of influence in Lebanon so that any residual threat, I will use the word residual threat, I don't visualize a threat from them. Any residual threat coming from Hezbollah will be reduced. I think the larger fear is will really be still in the Gulf area, in Iran and the surrounding Gulf countries. Iran had made it very clear ever since Khomeini was eliminated that there are no red lines any longer.
But Dhruv sir, doesn't that raise a question? I'm just going to come for your 30-second comments, sir, because we have some satellite images that have been coming in. Hamas has been considerably weakened, destroyed. Houthis silent. And as far as Hezbollah is concerned, as you said, their retaliation is restricted. Lebanon too seems to be now taking action against them for using their territory to use for attacks against Israel. But the satellite pictures that I was now talking about, let's put that out for a focus. This is from Iran. In Natanz, that has now been said. The nuke watchdog has meanwhile sounded an alarm And the IAEA has now flagged Iran's massive stockpile. And this seems to be the near weapon-grade uranium. However, there is no proof of any bomb, but this is a big worry that has now raised the alarm over Iran's uranium stockpile. And transparency, what the IAEA says is that it is still missing from Tehran, and this is a serious concern over Iran. Inspectors denied full access to the site, and IAEA has also given a warning to Iran that open your sites, because this is now coming across as a clear-cut warning. Now this, if you remember last year's the pictures when it came in, Colonel Mahesh, when we spoke of that 12-day conflict that happened back in June, President Trump claims that nuke facilities have been completely obliterated. Now he believes that this is in a way justified as 28th of Feb attack is concerned, because they wouldn't let one of the biggest sponsors of terror, as he's been labeling Iran, to have or to, procure a nuclear weapon. Is this the concern that the world was raising, especially the US?
Amita, I have to very respectfully disagree with that view, because I will, at the cost of repetition, say that this war has got nothing to do with Iran's nuclear capabilities. It even has nothing to do with their ballistic missile development capabilities. It has got everything to do with the need of American control of the Middle East and the oil.
Yeah.
And let's not kid ourselves that it is anything else. As far as statement coming out that last June we completely obliterated Iran's nuclear facilities, then why did we strike them on 28th Feb? Now, on the IAEA, I'm getting conflicting reports, because the last report I heard was that the IAEA has actually said that no, Iran does not have nuclear facilities. They don't have enriched uranium. They are at maybe 60% of that 400 odd kilos of uranium that they have. So these are some conflicting views. Maybe a clarification would come. As far as Hezbollah is concerned, this is very clear. This had to happen. They have these terror proxies. They have Hezbollah. They have Hamas. You said Hamas is, they are down, but are they out? That's a debatable question. They have Iraqi militias as well as a terror proxy. They have the Houthis. So this is all now playing out. So yes, definitely on day one, we thought Iran will actually go running to the to the table and say, look, begging for a ceasefire. That didn't happen. Today we don't know who wants an off ramp. Is Iran looking for an off ramp, or is the US looking
because
for an
Iran seems to be going all out on multiple fronts.
Exactly.
You are a friend or an ally of the US. You are a direct enemy.
Yes, and likewise, Iran is also telling the world that, look, if you are a friend of you give them bases in your country, then every country in the Gulf has got American bases. Then a friend of America can't be a friend of ours. So I think the gloves are off, and there are no rules in warfare, as General Pandey will definitely endorse. So going ahead, interesting times. Iran is not throwing in the towel in a hurry. And I think
but sir, the question also rises, how long would their arsenal then last for? Because, yes, Lieutenant General D.P. Pandey, sir, 30 seconds to you, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I think what Colonel Mahesh has said is absolutely bang on. Firstly, look, Amrita, it's not about Iran. It is not about the weapons of uranium and stuff like that. Yes, that is why there are two different operations which are being launched. Operation Big Fury is by the Americans. Operation Lion Roar is by Israelis. Israelis got different military aim and political aim, whereas Americans have got a larger political. It's a great game which is on. This is all about China. This is all about regaining control. I have just written an article being published with Clause. I have got no doubt. And now when you're saying that what will eventually happen, yes, ballistic missiles will go away. What about IRGC? What about buses? They got about nearly 12 million guys sitting around there who are totally uncontrolled. There are 31 units which are deployed into the mountains in Tehran. Yes, I'm sure that there will be an alternate government will come about. Americans must have thought about it. Even if it doesn't come, do you think America cares about it? I'm not very clear about it.
That would be a contradictory statement, sir, because America, in a way, knows how to start a war but doesn't know how to finish it. We've seen different examples. Iraq.
No, but But
There has been
Mr.
Syria, there has been Afghanistan, sir. But I just want to put out more visuals that are now coming in, sir, because this is like literally back to back when these pictures are now being updated. This is from central Tehran. What we are getting to know are these pictures that are now coming in from central Tehran. Massive destruction that there you can see, because the number of people dead, the casualties, this is all unaccounted for. And these are the strike aftermath that you can see, these pictures that have now been shared. Multiple buildings have now been reduced to a rubble. There is nothing but smoke or debris that can be seen there. You can see the pictures that are coming in latest from central Tehran. Across the capital that we are looking at, even key government sites have been shut and they have been hit because of the strikes. Because this is what has been the objective of the IDF. Continuously that they have been sharing images and the names of the leadership, even when it comes to the military commanders. This person eliminated, another person eliminated, second run succession eliminated. And that is what they have been doing. This is the same kind of an objective that they tried to achieve when they were fighting the war against Hamas. And now in Tehran, these are the pictures that are now being coming in. This has all been reduced to a rubble. But the collateral damage, the civilian casualty, those figures still remain unaccounted for. And even the Azadi Square, the ones that led the 1979 revolution, that too has been hit, as the pictures that have been coming in. Dhruv, sir, collateral damage, unfortunately, is the civilian casualty, sir. Now, there have been casualties coming from all fronts. US says it has lost 6 of its soldiers killed in action. And President Trump is also threatening and warning that they will avenge the killings. But, sir, at the receiving end, it's the people on ground.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, in any war, it is the people on the ground who are going to get it. And in this particular case, I think it's the people of Iran who are the most impacted. You see, there are 2 points which I want to bring about what my the co-panelists have said, and I've got a slightly different point of view.
Sure.
One was that it has nothing to do with the nuclear weapon, Iran's nuclear weapons. I have a different view on that. Many years ago, that about 7 to 8 years ago, I had met the Israeli ambassador in India, and in a conversation, he had expressed his concern about Iranian nuclear weapons. And at that point, in that conversation, and I asked him, I said, listen, the Americans won't allow you to take out the Iranian nuclear facilities. And he made it very clear. He says, if we feel threatened, if they are going to make a bomb, we will take it out regardless of anything. For them, it is an existential threat. This sort of a statement has come to me every year since then, from that time, 7, 8 years back till date. And their point was that every time when the top political leadership of Iran threatens us with nuclear weapons, we have to take it seriously. Please understand that Israel is a very small country. One nuclear weapon will destroy it. And they have consistently been saying that we will destroy and we will take them out completely. Now, Americans may have a different aim. Americans may have that aim regarding the oil and, containing China. I'm not denying that. But for the Israelis, there was absolutely no doubts in my mind that regardless of anything, if they feel threatened, they are going to go to war. For them, it was existential.
So,
regarding the civilian
does it mean that every country has their own objective? Because if the sole objective was regime change and the killing of Khamenei, then the war should have been over on the first day itself, sir.
No, but they haven't changed the regime. That you see, killing of Khomeini hasn't changed the regime. That is, the other alternative when what people are suggesting to get that Shah from the US. The son of the former Shah.
Yes.
No, he's got no credibility. That Shah will not be acceptable to any person in Iran. What Iran really requires is, if you're looking at a regime change, now Mojtaba, I believe, has come in. That is not a regime change. It is simply an extension of the regime. A regime change means getting the Ayatollah out and a new government in. Now, how that is going to take place, it can only come about with the internal rebellion.
But it's a complicated run of the mix of clergy also when it comes to with the IRGC, isn't it, Lieutenant General D.P. Pandey, sir? Because that is raising a lot more complication. Is it even possible for a regime change till the people there on ground don't rise against the regime? That is what President Trump was, initiating and hinting at the first place.
Let's cut this thing out into a couple of Israeli. It's not only Israeli aim. This is an aim of even Saudis and every other smaller country which is in the Gulf, that Iran should not have nuclear weapon. So the first aim of Israeli mission and political, again I will repeat, the mission and political objective of Israelis was to take out the nuke. The second very important requirement government was to take out ballistic missiles capability, because while ballistic missiles which they're developing could hit very freely the American continent as well after this thing, but the numbers which they're going for, targeting for 2027 to have about 8,000 ballistic missiles. They had about 3,000 last year in the start, and by now I'm sure they must be having slightly much more. The Saudis and the Israelis both were absolutely apprehensive of this, because ballistic missile, no form of air defense, no form of Sudarshan Chakra can stop. They will come and land. So this was the second important. Now, even if Iran goes into chaos, their regime change may not be. The third is regime change. If regime change was first one, which would have mitigated the first, nuclear part and ballistic missile part, then they would have gone. But please understand, Amrita, everybody's talking of regime change. Ayatollah has been killed, removed. Regime is what? Regime is not one man. Regime is a full structure which is in place. The structure carries out, and Iran is not Venezuela. There is one king. Saddam Hussein is there, is one ruler. Iran is a religious ideology which is layered. They got the clerics, they got IRGC, they got Basij, and the numbers are not few. They are hardly, there may be 60%, 70%.
That's what I said, it's a complicated and a complex structure that we are looking at. Now that his son has succeeded, Khamenei's son has succeeded, he's even not part of a senior, cleric, he's not even a part of the clergy there. But does he wield that kind of a significant influence with the IRGC, because there seems to be growing pressure? And if his name has now been announced, does it mean that he will now be on the hit list of Israel and US? Because that seems to be the consistent way that the elimination of the top leadership, whether it comes to military, whether it comes to the government, whether it comes to the clergy, that is being done on part of the IDF. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for taking out your time. It's been a pleasure speaking to you and understanding your point of view. Thank you very much for joining us here on Times Now.